Ready to have a deeper conversation about body and soul, sacred leadership, and our collective evolution? Welcome to the Wise Body Ancient Soul podcast with me, your host, Charisse Sisou. Welcome so much to Wise Body Ancient Soul. Introduce yourself for anyone who's listening.
Aloha, my name is Pihanalani. So Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian healing method that is closely related to hula, which is the Hawaiian dance, and also closely related to lomi lomi, which is Hawaiian massage or body work, and also with lua, which is the martial arts that is Hawaiian, yeah. So siblings. So my grandmother, my mom's mom, was she played a crucial role in the restoration of the whole healing method of Ho'oponopono with the QLCC or Queen Liliuokalani Children's Center back in like the 60s and 70s. Um, and so it's kind of like, I'm kind of like picking up where she left off, you know, like in my family's eyes. Um, so yeah, I've been working with individuals and groups doing Ho'oponopono experiences with Airbnb.
That's great. Well, just situate us a little bit because I know things have shifted in Maui since I was there.
Yeah, major.
Catch us up a little bit on that because, of course, the whole world was watching during the fires, but I know the fallout of that is still continuing.
Yeah, so right now what's happening is that rent is like super high now. It's like tripled. It was already super high. It's like 3 grand for like a 1 bedroom. Like it's been really crazy. The housing
Yeah.
situation is out of control over here now. Um
Mm.
so that's kind of the work that I'm going into now. Like so I work at the emergency shelter they set up for people that don't have a place to go from the fires, yeah. So that's what I do now, and it's been kind of like really interesting to say the least to watch, yeah, to observe. Um, so everybody that does have a house that's renting or owns, like they're trying to hold on to it, but then FEMA's buying out everybody too. But then it's like
Mm.
they're not really working fast enough to house them, so they're buying like a lot of condos and land and houses, but then nobody's really getting housed fast enough, you know. It's been really interesting to witness. Yeah,
Mm.
things are really different. A lot of people are
Yeah.
like an exodus, like they're just fleeing, you know, almost like
Mm.
'cause they can't afford anything.
Well, when I hear that, it hurts my heart a little
Yeah,
bit because, even just what you're talking about. So when I went and visited, I was on Airbnb trying to find something that was more like native Hawaiian and not just, more touristy, right? I wanted to connect with the culture. And so I was so excited that you were offering what you were offering. And it's so just aligned. I feel like for me, I look at Ho'oponopono and I think like this is something that everyone on the planet needs to know and
yeah.
participate in. Like we could solve a lot of issues this way.
My
And yeah,
my mother believes that if everyone is willing and able to participate in it, we could probably have a lot more peace in this world. If not, we could achieve world peace, yeah. But the thing is that you
yeah.
really, really real with yourself and vulnerable and raw, yeah, to be accountable enough to own your stuff, you know, and get real and apologize, sincerely apologize, you know. That's the hard part. People don't want to do the work, you know, right now. But then hopefully things will shift to where people get more accountable, get more real with themselves, yeah.
Well, and I think that's why Ho'oponopono is so deep and so effective is because of that. It goes, kind of against it. It's so interesting to me because I remember the first time I encountered it and I was, I heard about it as a forgiveness process, right? And then what's the first thing that you do? You need to apologize. You ask for forgiveness. It was like, what? Like, excuse me? And yet, the deeper I go on my own path, the more it's like, of course, it always starts here. It always starts with us. So, like, tell me more about that. Like how, tell me more about Ho'oponopono. Like walk us through that process, especially for anyone who maybe this is a new term. You got to do the work. So what is that work?
So it's different for each individual and different in each circumstance that we have each session. So sometimes it's conflict resolution with a group, and that one can be really, really difficult because you deal with
Mm,
individuals. But the one that I prefer is the individual one. It's a more modern style, and so it gets us correct or in alignment with our higher power. And so ho'oponopono translates into to make, correct, but then there's two ponos, which means correct. So it's a double emphasis
mm,
on it, yeah. So it's to get correct or like in homeostasis with yourself and your higher power, and to be in the best alignment with your highest self, you know. And so a lot of times it starts with forgiving ourselves, yeah, and forgiving this life that things that happened, releasing that, yeah, not being so attached to it. So that's pretty much what Ho'oponopono is. It's releasing what no longer serves us, and then making room for what could be, yeah, that's better, yeah.
mm.
So
I really love how you put that because I think sometimes we get caught up in the idea of forgiveness, like it means it's to your point, it's about letting go. It's not about like, oh, it's okay what the other person did, and it's just more so I'm making a decision no longer to carry that burden, right? Is that
it's kind of like some people see, like, like when you're in a battle and then they wave the white flag and they're like, I surrender. But surrender is could be perceived as a good thing. That's when you
Mhm.
allow things to you let go, and you allow things to just be, yeah. But people are so used to seeing it as losing, yeah. Like
Mhm.
they're coming from an egotistical point of view, really. But really, it's not about that. When you surrender, you allow a lot of things to happen. It's like I don't know how to explain it. Like, I know some people, like, they were trying to conceive for a long time and they couldn't. And then when they surrendered and gave up, that's when they were able to have babies, and they couldn't stop having babies. So it's kind of
Right.
like, so, it's kind of like opening the floodgates, on this, letting things be, let the flow, the ebb and flow of life go. And forgiveness is really
Mm.
like, so resentment is really, really not healthy for us. Um, it's like drinking toxins and poison and expecting the other person to suffer, but you're the one that suffers. And sometimes in real life, like when there's a problem with somebody, you have beef with somebody, they don't even know that you're mad. They don't even know that you're holding a resentment half the time. Maybe more than that. So a lot of times they're not even aware that you're holding a grudge. So a lot of times they're totally unaffected. And it's really about you, and you being good with yourself, you being good with your higher power, and knowing that you're good. And cleaning your side of the
Mm.
street, each individual. And then you can present, when you can hold yourself accountable to yourself, then you can move forward to be open to forgiveness from other people and giving forgiveness. Allowing forgiveness, yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. It's so powerful. It's so powerful. How you said earlier that it's related to hula, it's related to, yeah, all of these disciplines like work
Yeah.
together. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
So, like in Hawaiian culture, they were really, these people that made these healing arts or martial arts or dancing, like all those things, they were literally siblings in our oli or mele. Oli, it means chant, and mele is song. So that's how we passed down stories, was to hula, mele, and oli. And so they were they've come from the same place, yeah. So
Mm.
it's mostly working with energy or mana. It's about the flow of things, yeah, and how you use it, how you use your chi. Mana is another word for chi, Hawaiian word for chi. So it's really about the ebb and flow, of energy. When I have the Ho'oponopono experiences, we talk about how everything is connected. Everything that ever existed and ever will is connected to each other through an energy cord. And when we do Ho'oponopono, we don't sever the ties completely, because that's not that's impossible. It's not possible.
Right.
So we just it's kind of like shaving. You know, you shave the hair off your legs, you shave the hair, you know, cut your hair. It's like that, but then you still have hair. You know, so
Mm.
it's getting rid of what no longer serves us. You know, what was old and we don't need anymore. So
Ah,
yeah, so
I love, yeah,
yeah, hula
I
is.
love what you're saying. Mhm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, because I've never liked that idea of like cutting the cord, like this idea of cutting because it felt like a little violent and a little bit in denial, right? Like, well, there's always a connection because we are connected with all. And one of the ways I've been thinking about it too, I love your idea of like, oh, it's like shaving your legs or cutting your hair. Cause I've been thinking about it like almost like we're braided and then we just unbraid the hair. You know what I mean? The hair's still there, but we're not like all connected in like that. But I love your analogy too.
So it's just like so Hawaiians also believe there's three main picos, or like it's kind of like a chakra, but we call it pico, Piko. So there's like the crown chakra, yeah, that's one pico. Then the belly button, and then the
Mm,
genitalia, which is the third pico. So they all relate to certain aspects of our life. So like this one is to the higher powers and to our ancestors, and then um our belly button is to like our parents and our siblings, the people that we live most of our life with, yeah. And the genitalia is for the offspring. But just like you cut the umbilical cord when you give birth, it's still a connection, yeah. Even though the physical part is cut off, it's the same thing. When we when we
hmm
when we when we do the oki, or we sever ties with other people, it's like cutting the umbilical cord in a way, because we're so sometimes we get so enmeshed and entangled with other people that it no longer is healthy, yeah. It's not the best for us anymore, yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, pretty much cutting the umbilical cord, yeah. But we're always,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
I feel like you're schooling me right now because I know I've been feeling a kind of way about some of the work that I've been doing, just carrying like a little. And as I'm listening you talk, it's like, oh my gosh, I've been carrying resentment. I need to do Ho'oponopono. Like it's time for me to ask for forgiveness and just, let it go already. Wow, wow, really good.
so it's, yeah, it's really good to self reflect a lot. I believe that, that to reflect on, like, how am I good? Am I really good with myself? Am I sleeping? Like, especially when you don't sleep well, it's like, why am I not sleeping well? What's really good?
Yeah,
Like, 'cause you have to be at peace to sleep good, like really good, yeah. So
yeah.
a lot of people struggle with that because they have so much resentments. They have so much things they're holding on to that they no longer need. Yeah.
That's so powerful what you just said because we do. It's like we get signals from our body when we are not pono, when we're not right with ourselves. And it can show up like sleep issues, it can show up all kinds of
Yeah.
ways. That's really powerful. I'm also intrigued because you mentioned your grandmother, and I know that for you to, um, well, let's honor her for a moment about the work that she did to, and I love that too, like what you just described, like those energy centers are all about our connection with our ancestors, with our future, like our children to come. It's so powerful. So to honor her, like tell me more about the work that she did so that Ho'oponopono remained a process that was practiced and taught and learned and all of that.
My grandmother's name was Judy Napoleon Flores, and she grew up on Molokai in Camilo. She came from a big family. She's like number 13 or 14 of 17 children. My great grandpa, her dad, came from Maui, and I believe my grandmother did too. My great grandmother. They both were from Maui, and they relocated to Molokai because they had connections there too, to family, but they also inherited Hawaiian homelands, and Molokai was the one of the first places they had the Hawaiian homestead. Yeah, so they got that. So my grandma grew up in Kamilaloa mostly, so she had tuberculosis when she was real young in her lungs. So she always struggled with breathing. Yeah, um, but as she got older, she was, yeah, so she was part of the her and my other grandparents were part of the first Aloha Aina movement. They were with the Hui Alaloa that later became the Protect Ko Olabe Ohana. So she had a big role, an active role in pretty much the sovereignty movement and pushing for Hawaiian rights and pushing for some kind of self governance, some of the Hawaiian kingdom or Hawaiian nation. She did a lot, you know. She wasn't alive really long, considering how long we can live. She died in her mid 50s, but she accomplished a lot, I think, in my mind. So she worked with QLCC or Queenie Local Children's Center. She worked with a team for restoration of Hawaiian culture because for a long period of time they didn't allow us to do anything Hawaiian. We couldn't speak Hawaiian, we couldn't dance hula, we couldn't gather our herbs or whatever we needed. We were not allowed to do any of it. It was we could be put in jail. I could be in prison because of it. And so
Right.
when we transitioned to statehood, they started, I guess, feeling comfortable letting us practice our ways again, you know. So she was a team part of the team that did that, that restored the culture, yeah. And her specific kuleana or responsibility was with Ho'oponopono. So and she
Mm,
played a big role with like other people that are really well recognized for that, yeah. Um, through KLCC, yeah. So she
mm,
lived to her mid 50s, yeah. She died when I was a little girl, and most of my memories of her is of her being sick, you know. But she's
mm,
really, really well known for her role as a mediator or the person that facilitates the Ho'oponopono sessions. She was very well known for that, and
mm.
just her role in the sovereignty movement, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. How does this pass to you? Like what um for you to kind of carry on or like have that permission to share, to teach, what was that process like?
So my mother is the one that gave me the official permission, you know, but which is my mom's, well, she is my grandma's daughter, you know. So, but I actually studied it under other lineages too. I studied
Mm,
Ho'oponopono when I first started getting into Lomi Lomi because I did Lomi Lomi or massage therapy and or healing arts, physical body work for many years, and so when I was studying that, I learned different styles of Ho'oponopono. One is with um Kumu Lawrence Aki, Kumu Pa'a Lawrence Aki on Molokai.
mm.
And I later found out that's my husband's family. They're really closely related. And then I studied
No way.
I studied a little bit with Gina Ivalani Naluai up in Ho'omana Spa in Makawao. I studied a little bit with her, Ho'oponopono, and I just felt like it felt like it just led me, you know, it just life just led me to that, you know. So I was doing Nomi Nomi and massage, and I was tired, you know. I like physically, it's taxing, you know. Years of doing that, day in day out. Even though I did it off and on, like when I had my baby, I wasn't
Mm.
doing it much, you know. Somebody had suggested it. Somebody has suggested that I do Airbnb Ho'oponopono, and I was like, looking at them like, what? And it was Bula Logan's. He's another Lomi Lomi practitioner. He passed away already. His brother that
Mm.
told me I should do that, and I kind of
Mm.
sat on that for a little while, and then kind of a couple years, I kind of like did other things, and then I finally it like this popped in my head again, and I was like, I should do that, and so I did that. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you did. Because that's how we got to meet and how we got to work with you.
yeah,
It was,
cool.
yeah, it was
Like
amazing. It was amazing. Hmm?
I feel like I'm meeting more people that are like my tribe, you know, my people, you know, like I feel really a good connection with people that I've been meeting through this, and people have been telling me they can't find they don't know how they found it. Like when they go back and look at it like months later, they're like, I can't find you. I'm like, so it's like it's not by chance, you know. It's totally it's synchronicity to me. Like the people even see my ad, you know. So I feel like it all works together, you know. It all falls into
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's so true what you're saying when we do the work that we're called to do. like the universe will deliver the people that we're meant to connect with. I'm finding the same thing. Like as I'm doing this, like
Yeah,
what I'm doing now with this show, I'm like,
yeah.
I'm talking to the most amazing people like you. And it's like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I was born to do this.
Sometimes the things that we're called to do is not the easiest. It's usually the hardest. That's the hardest path. And we're gonna have challenges, but like it's so rewarding though when we make it through. To the other side. Of that challenge, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. It doesn't mean that it's easy. Yeah. No, in fact, it's often like really hard. Same kind of thing like where people have told me so many times like, "When are you going to start? You should start something." Like they had to plant that seed and keep on me until I was like, "Yeah, I should." Like that's a good, you know what I mean? So similar to your journey with it being suggested to you to teach. Um can we dive into a little bit of the process that you took my husband and I through? Like, can we talk about that a little bit? It
Okay.
might be because we did a whole thing in like salt water in the ocean and salt water, and then we did a whole thing in fresh water,
Yeah.
which was freezing.
Yeah.
But tell me, yeah, like, and I just refresh like the purpose of that, like the how that all came together.
So the type of Ho'oponopono that I do, it's a mixture of several different lineages of Ho'oponopono. So it's somewhat my kumu my one of my main kumu. I call it my main kumu because I'm in a halal with them. He passed away, but then his daughter who's my age, is now the kumu. So halal is like a lifelong school. You never fully finish, yeah, until you pass
Yeah.
halal. So I studied with my kumu Apuni Ibiula for a few years, maybe like 5 years before he passed away. Um, and he was the one that really helped me see through doing my own process that how powerful Ho'oponopono can be, how healing it can be, and it was almost like miraculous. It was just like it was so fast, impactful, and long standing the results, yeah. Like so, I did Ho'oponopono, and I pretty much released the relationship that was no longer serving me, and like I didn't even say anything to the other individual, and it was like they didn't stop talking to me for 5 years, and then when they did talk to me, they said I'm sorry, and I was like, I was blown away. But at first I thought something's wrong, and my kumu told me no, it's doing its thing, the whole Ho'oponopono. But we did it a little different than what we did together at the Airbnb experience. We went on a boat in the middle of the channel between Molokai and Maui, and that's where I released that Okidia. So I wasn't in the salt water. We were on a boat, like a big boat, kind of big, yeah. And that's where I released it and let it do its thing, let it go where it needed to go. And it was really it really changed my life. And then I didn't even realize how powerful that was till later. How much it added to my own personal healing and my own journey. um
Mm,
then I studied a little bit more with Kumupa'a Lawrence Aki. That's where I got the kapukai and the hiubai, which is kapukai is the salt water part where we oki and release the what's no longer serving us, and we kind of like cleanse. And then the hiubai is in the fresh water, and that's where we call what we want and what we are open to, what can replace what we release, yeah. And
mm,
so I also learned that with some of that too, same kind of thing with kumu Gina Ivalani na luai up in Ho'omanas pa Maui in Makawao. So I studied
mm,
with her too. So it's kind of like those lineages braided together like to make one lineage, yeah. So yeah, I think it's been really interesting, like, and really powerful, and like it's kind of like no words to describe how much it's changed my life and others, yeah.
mm. Just as you were describing being on that boat, I could feel the current of energy that like you know what I mean? Like that was tapping into the energies of the planet, like just
Yeah, I was right in the middle of the channel. Like I was on the channel, so
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Um how would what what is a way that someone, let's say they're listening and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this sounds fascinating." What is a way that someone can get started? Sort of like ideally they fly to Maui
yeah,
and they
because
do an experience with you. Right?
probably
That's that's ideal.
or or even so I've been talking to some people about, because sometimes they don't want to go up to the valley or they don't want to go in the salt water. So it's better to have that whole process, because it's more powerful. It has more, to me, it has more mana. That whole entire, step by step, yeah. Um, um, I think that it is possible to do it without the kapuka and the hi'uvai, but I personally see it as doing the act and actually being immersed in the salt water and being immersed in the fresh water is a real factor, of the how powerful it can be, because the salt
Absolutely.
water is literally scientifically proven to cleanse, and like the fresh water literally has different energy, So when you are there to physically immerse all your picos physically, it's a big difference than just talking about it, You know what I mean? Like,
I do. I do. I do. I feel it because it's like
yeah,
the whole when we're in the water, it's like we're tapping into all that support from
everything.
Mother Earth. It's like the whole thing, it's so hard to do by ourselves. Um, is there a way that people could, like, let's say, like dip their toe in the water? Like if they just wanted to learn,
Oh yeah, you could
or yeah.
envision it. You could like have um So I've had people stand next to the body of water because that couldn't get into the water because of like their legs were, or they're on a cane or wheelchair, and so you can stand by the water and envision it. Some people are better at envisioning things that it's almost like the same thing as getting in immersed in the water, but most people are not that good at envisioning it. But it is possible. It's
Mm,
it doesn't for for individuals that are really good at envisioning and doing visualization, it works really good. Just like the actual
mm,
art of going, the fact of going into the water, yeah, immersing. But some people, they don't feel any different. They feel just a little bit different. But everybody's
mhm.
different. Each individual's been different. Their experience. Some people, as soon as they book the experience with me, or as soon as they put the notion they're gonna do Ho'oponopono into their mind and heart, it starts. Some people, it starts 3 weeks later. They feel it. After they've been away from Hawaii. So it's all like
Yeah.
individually cater to each person, and what they're ready for, what the universe or higher powers feel is meant for them now. It's been
Mhm.
interesting though to witness, yeah, and to be a part of, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Now I also wanted to just, I'm realizing we're talking about it, or I would say most people who have heard of the Ho'oponopono process, they know like
The
each
mantra.
piece, right? Right, the prayer. Can you just walk us through that for maybe someone who like it's completely brand new?
Oh, okay, so it's I know that, so it's that's just a small part of the entire.
Thank you. Okay, perfect, perfect.
I
Like,
don't
tell us about that because I've talked to a lot of people where they think that's the whole thing. But anyway, go on. Yeah.
So that's that lineage, yeah. That's that doctor and that auntie's lineage of their Ho'oponopono, and it's just a small factor of the entire process. But that is a big factor. That's the forgiveness part, yeah. So that's what in the one that I do. We do that when we oki. We do the I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. All while we shave off the what we don't need. Like when we're oking and cutting, we we envision that and we feel that, and um the intent is a really big part of it, yeah. The intent of being sincerely wanting forgiveness and receiving forgiveness, all of that, that's all part of it. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and I think that that's the part that um um auntie the auntie and the doctor that had made that part, that they got that gist of it, that it's your thoughts, it's your intent, it's how you feel about what you're saying, and what you're trying to
Yeah.
emit, people can feel energy, energy don't lie, so like when you
True.
sincere sincere wanting to forgive and receive forgiveness, to give forgiveness and receive, yeah, it's powerful. It's really,
Mhm.
and so I think that with the mantra, you any individual, if they sincerely mean it and they really put their intent in it, it can heal a lot of stuff within themselves and within their relationships. The unhealthy dynamic can become healthier.
Yeah. Well, so that actually leads me to a question because I know you talked about your process that you did on the boat with your kumu.
Yeah,
So the relationship that you released, however, that was you were not communicating directly with that person. It was just
they
like
don't even know anything.
energetically.
They don't even know anything, and they're probably
Right.
they're just not gonna want to talk to you, or they're just not gonna. They're. So I when I did the oki, I had put the intent that he was no longer gonna treat me the way he did. I was not gonna tolerate it. It's like putting boundaries up. And he just stopped talking to me. It was kind of weird. Like we were talking, like not talking for 5 years, and then one day I saw him, and he was like, "I'm sorry," and I was like, "Wow!" Like my mind was like, "Wow." But then I that later on I put it together. Oh yeah, I did. I asked for that. Until he could
Yeah.
come correctly and be proper. He wasn't gonna talk to me, and it happened immediately, and it was like mind blowing. You know, so
Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. I've had that same thing where as soon as I set that intent
yeah,
of, this is what I will and will
yeah,
no longer tolerate from this person. It's like they psychically get the
yeah,
message because I never said a word to them and it completely changed would completely change our relationship. I'm just thinking out loud because I know, learning about the process, it's like do we need to do it with the other person? I think cuz sometimes you wouldn't want to. Like if it's
yeah.
someone who's really caused you harm, you don't want to be having a conversation with
But
that person, but you
it's not about them. It's really about ourselves.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
like in the group setting, the conflict resolution, there's a part that everybody agrees that once the Ho'oponopono is pound, once it's done, that um you no longer bring it up. It's like it never happened. Yeah. So it's kind of like when you do the individual one and you're trying to get right with somebody else, energetically, relationship wise, that dynamic, you don't have to mention anything to them. Anything. You don't have to. It'll do its thing. The work. The Ho'oponopono. It'll do its thing. They don't need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. That's powerful. Because I think it's so interesting because there's, people, when we think about forgiveness or we think about everyone's bringing their own belief set to it. And so, really getting clear on what is meant within this prayer and within this process. Um,
Sometimes
because yeah, tell me.
sometimes people want to hear like the actual verbiage, the words come out of people's mouths saying I'm sorry, but a lot of times we don't get that, we don't get that through the exact words that we want to hear. We get it through, I hope you're okay, hope you drive safely, I hope you make it home to, and sometimes not even hearing a thing from them, that alone is enough. Yeah. And I think that sometimes we kind of expect too much. People are ashamed sometimes of what they do and did,
Right.
and
Right.
sometimes you're not going to hear the things that you want to hear, and it's okay to just accept things. That's part of the forgiveness process, accepting, accepting things for what they are and what they,
Yeah.
and what they could be,
Wow. That is it's so powerful what you're saying right now. It's so true. It's so true. It's like we have these expectations and then when they're not met, we're like holding on to that
What,
feeling
yeah,
when it's like it's not about that at all. It's like, wow. And I've seen that play out in my own life. So you talked about this relationship, I've had that same thing where I would do a process not even with just
yeah,
myself, visualizing. I might visualize that I have a conversation with them, but I never have the actual conversation. And the whole way that not well, the way that they are around me changes completely if we're still in relationship. But most importantly, I feel like it's like I'm a new person
Yeah.
afterwards. You know what I mean? Like I'm not carrying that
And sometimes they
anymore.
into your life. Sometimes they remove themselves, but that's okay too. You know. Thank you, mahalo for what we had. Mahalo, yeah,
Yeah.
bro. Because sometimes
Yeah.
it's I don't know how to explain it. Like, you know,
No, you're explaining it really well. Yeah. You're explaining it really well. And I think too, you said something so beautiful, which is, you know, the other person may be feeling shame. Like it's so compassionate, really, to think about, we think about our own suffering, but we don't think about the other person's suffering,
they
you know? Yeah.
make mistakes too. Yeah, and sometimes
Right.
so in the heat of the moment, you know, we say things we don't mean. You know, sometimes I'm sorry, crying, just thinking about some things in my life. You know, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay. You know, it's okay to just come out. Yeah, shut your mouth and be quiet.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. I feel that. I feel that, honey.
Yeah. So
Cause they're
I've gotten
yeah.
as I from when I first met my kuwapuni, when I first did that process, I was in my 20s, you know, my mid 20s. Now I'm 40. I turned 40 this past year, and so all these years, it's making more sense what he's told me, you know. And sometimes it's good to just pause and just kind of like be like a outsider looking in, you know. And sometimes we're so in the drama and the that we don't know when to stop, yeah, and we make it
Mhm.
worse, yeah. Sometimes it's just better to hum out, just be quiet, yeah, pause, yeah.
Right? Just same.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been oh my gosh, girl, I feel you. I'm
amends, you know.
huh?
We don't have to make amends or feel the sense like we need to make amends. If we just pause sometimes, yeah, and just reflect, yeah, in the moment, you know. It's harder though. It's harder.
Yeah.
Sin.
It is harder. It's harder, but it's also like that's the work, right? It's so beautiful
Yeah,
what you speak about. I feel like it's been like one of the biggest lessons in my life is just um oh my gosh, like I don't yeah, because I don't want to name any names, but like you know, of just feeling that pain. And my only way through the pain was to realize that they're human beings. They did
yeah,
what they could.
yeah. But the
And
out really,
I,
but the
yeah,
try to play their hand the best they can, you know, to come make it out on the other end.
yeah,
Bro,
yeah, yeah. Very often they're exactly that. They're doing the best they can.
yeah,
And, and we can't fault people for doing their best and, not meeting our expectations
yeah,
or what we needed. And, but it's profound to me. Like I feel like that's, it's so funny. Like that's what I've gotten my PhD in. Like I don't have the diploma, but my PhD is in like forgiveness because it's like these people where I just, it's like okay, this is a good example is my mom's first husband. He wasn't my biological dad, but he was the guy that I called daddy for
yeah,
the first, 15 years. Like, surprise, he's not your dad. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But I was not long after, so like he and my mom split up, and then he just disappeared from my life. That hurt me a lot. As when I was a kid, I didn't understand that.
yeah,
Right? I was just like this guy who I thought loved me so much just like disappeared and stopped seeing me, and oh, I felt so much of a way around that. And this is wild, but I feel like some during the pandemania, the pandemic,
yeah,
like it was like my heart opened and I was like, I've got to forgive all these people. Like, I don't know what happened, but it was like something switched on. And I remember I was just like recording a little video like this, and I just spontaneously started doing like, please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. I'm not doing it in the right order, but I
yeah.
knew that I needed to just um thank
Have that,
him.
yeah, have that intent out there, yeah.
Yeah, and he's I mean, he's crossed over, he's on the other side, but I know that I found so much peace in just recognizing like he did the best that he could. And yeah, and and it's just it's so easily something that I could have like felt about, just right until the end, and I was like, whew,
Yeah,
it wasn't worth it for me to keep carrying that. And yeah, it's profound, and it's like it brings you so much calm
yeah.
and strength. Like, tell me about that, like, because you're an expert at this, like, on the other side of this, like, that what does that mean to be, pono with yourself, like, to be at peace with yourself in that way?
I think that
It's clearly made, yeah, big
it
difference.
made a big difference in my life. I was
Yeah.
in my 20s. I was a lot more angry, a lot more. I was just really angry, and it showed, and like I've mellowed out drastically, and I really believe it's because of doing this whole Ho'oponopono, yeah, Becoming becoming good with myself, yeah, accepting what I have done and what I am doing and what I could do, and like just being knowing that I'm good with me and mine, my higher power and me, we're good, me and my ancestors, we're good, and no matter what anybody
Yeah.
else says, I know we're good, yeah, because I've been working on myself. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, I do.
and so
Wow.
I think that one thing that makes it harder for people is that everybody has their own sense of pono, yeah. So what is pono to me is not necessarily pono to you, and what's pono to you is not necessarily pono to an Arabic man in Arabia or in the Middle East,
Right, right.
or
Mm-hmm.
him to a Japanese woman in Japan. It's all perspective, and each individual has their own unique twist to what is pono for them. And I think that society tells us how we should be, a lot of times. And it's really about being good with you and yours, like no matter what anybody else says, yeah.
Yeah,
You made the best decision with the cards you were dealt at any given time, and that, you're good,
that's
But
beautiful. Yeah, that's it right there.
know,
That's it right there. It's like we can only be accountable to ourself and ours, and,
and I think
feeling right with that.
a lot of times, a lot of the strife or the disputes or whatever is because people are telling other people how to live their lives. Like, oh, you're gay, you can't live like that, and it's like that's porno for them though. That's their porno. That's their reality. And who are you to say that's not porno? You know, that's
Right.
you know, yeah,
Yeah.
same concept.
I think yeah, that's so I it's so powerful because I think we're not used to an idea of rightness that is where each of us has a different flavor.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I love thinking about Pono in this way of like yes, we're all connected,
yeah,
and we are like individual facets within that collective, and what we need to just be right with is
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly what it is, and it's like they're like another version of us, kind of like another timeline, like another, like they are, because we all they're not even they are us, like we're all connected. If we're all from the same source,
Mm.
all from the same mana, then we're all like the same, really.
Oh my God, I just got chills when you said that, right? It is. I mean, it's kind of like that expression, like, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Like,
Yeah,
it's like that,
yeah,
right? It's like, that is me. That is also me. That is also
yeah.
me. It's like, um,
That's in reality.
oh,
Yeah, like for real, you know what I mean, like
for real, for real.
yeah,
Yeah. Cause, on my own path, I don't know if you believe in past lives or stuff like that. Like, yeah, you're like, yeah. Because we're the same tribe. That's why. But yeah, so I'm like that. One of the, I remember I was going into meditation and I was like, how do I have compassion for someone who did something so terrible, right? Like, how am I supposed to feel? And I remember my guides like kind of sat me at my ancestors. They sat me at this table and they like switched all these faces, in front of me, like someone sitting across from me, and then they stopped, and it was like stopped on like a big like a head honcho in like the KKK, right? The Ku Klux Klan.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And I'm looking in his eyes and they're like, icy blue. And I'm a little bit like, okay. And they're like, look closer, right? And I saw his little boy. And his little boy was like, what about the past? What about, they're like, it was so profound because it was like, oh, okay, he had this perspective that he was trying to bring forward. Was he doing it in the right way? You know what I mean? It's like,
No, I hear you.
for the, like harm to none and the highest good of all, right? But it was like, but he's also a human being, right? And then later, fast forward, they were like, by the way, that was you in a past life. Just saying. And I was like, what? I know. Because this is the thing too, like other timelines, other lifetimes, we have walked. It's not just like, oh, imagine yourself in the other person's shoes. Like we've walked those shoes. We have been, I like we've been all sides, right? We've
Yeah,
been like the victim, we've been the predator, we've
yeah.
been the all of the things. And so it's like, um it doesn't mean that, oh no, people get away with whatever. It doesn't mean that, but
Yeah.
it just means that we can have compassion for humans and and find our way through it, just knowing no one has the higher stance here. You know what I
But
mean?
even
Like,
right now, like a lot of people, like so now I work with a lot of displaced families, yeah, and so, um, and not families but people, individuals, and since the fires, they most of them, some of them were displaced from before that. They were homeless before that. So
mhm,
a lot of people are quick to judge the homeless, yeah. Like, but it could easily be anybody, unless you're, even if you're rich, it could just be one bad decision away from being on, without anything that you
totally.
feel a need for, and so I think it goes along with that. It's easier to sympathize or empathize with when you can really like see how easily that could be us. That is us.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? It's like just a different parent, a different situation, a different whatever, and we could really find ourselves in any situation. Yeah. It's really true. It's really true. Oh, this is so juicy. I could talk to you all day.
Aloha has its own frequency and like I think we know that, yeah, and um aloha is like very closely, it is mana, but then it's not, it's like a more,
Yeah.
compassionate flow or form of mana, yeah. And so I think that a lot of times we do things from the total opposite end, not from aloha, and the whole point is to do it from
Mm,
aloha, everything, so,
from aloha.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
It's
of when
still,
I think of aloha, I think of love. I
yeah,
think of like unconditional love. That's what it feels like to me.
exactly where they are at any, where they are, and like not expecting them to be anything but them. And I think a lot of times that we get hurt or we have resentments or um we get upset because we're hurt. That's really the root of it, is that we get hurt, our expectations get let down, we get disappointed, but we're not meeting, that's us, yeah, that's our stuff that we're trying to put on them to meet, yeah, when it's just aloha them for them. They're gonna be them, and I aloha you, because you do aloha them. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Mhm. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. So like I what what does one do in this situation, like oh my gosh, like such a great example, like the Hawaiian Islands being made into a state, right? And that takeover essentially.
Yeah,
How how do you find like how do we find the aloha and yet also,
have justice.
like
I'm
exactly, and also have justice? Yes, queen, you said it right there.
trying to figure that out. Really,
Right?
haven't had justice, but I think as a native Hawaiian, like we've just been. trying to move from aloha, because at the end, aloha's gonna win. At the end of it all, that's really what it is. Aloha's winning. And
True.
yeah, it's we didn't have. I don't think we got what we deserved yet. But I have trust in it that it'll work out for the best. Because aloha always wins. We're not done yet. When it's done, it's gonna be aloha thriving. Aloha's gonna be like all over. It's gonna be like, I really have faith in that. I really trust in that. Yeah.
I do too. I do too. That's beautiful. Ah, well, from my heart to yours, so much aloha,
So,
so much love.
aloha.
Thank you for this
Thank,
time today.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining me on Wise Body, Ancient Soul. I hope it reminds you how magical and powerful you truly are. Kindly subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so more juicy light bringers like you can hear these transmissions. And if you're looking to connect more deeply with your body and soul's wisdom, visit CharisseSisou.com to learn how else we can play together. Here's to your joy and wild success. From my heart to yours, I love you. Take what you need and pass it on.